My name is Kanal, and welcome to the Geeks of the Valley podcast, which connects with some of the brightest minds globally who are leading their respective industries today to discuss the hottest upcoming industry trends and how their work is affecting the global economy. Today, from the DC metro area, we have a very special guest joining us, Akash Raju. Akash, how are you holding up in light of COVID-19?
Hey, Kunal. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Yeah, COVID-19 is a crazy time. Just a few weeks ago, I was with my co-founders. We were working together every single day, and then we started remote working for the first time. But while I'm at home, actually, back in the DC area, and I'm mainly just practicing social distancing and staying at home and continuing to work on my company. How about you? I hope your family's safe.
Akash, thank you for asking. Everything is well on my end, and I'm happy to hear everything is going well with you. That kind of tears us off into our first question here. Tell us about yourself and how you picked up the entrepreneurial bug.
Yeah, so for me, I went to Purdue University, originally from the DC area where I am right now. And I really caught the entrepreneurial bug, I think, as I was transitioning from high school to college. So in high school, there's a lot of notable alumni, for example, the founder of Robinhood, among other companies, that came from my high school. So I was always aware of entrepreneurship and the startup world. But in high school, I actually studied biology. When I went to undergrad, I wanted to be more involved in the entrepreneurship community just because I was really interested in seeing how people went from an idea to building a functioning product that generated revenue. And after being a community leader at Purdue, I ran some initiatives such as a student-run co-working space, a co-ed entrepreneurship organization, and I worked a lot with the university to build a cohesive entrepreneurship ecosystem. And about a year and a half ago, I started my own company called Dime. We were doing pop-up shops around college campuses. And the goal of that company was to really help brands get offline exposure. And come about November, a customer we were actually working with came to us and asked for product placements. And that's how I started Glimpse.
Wow, Akash, you have quite for the young age you are, you have quite an extensive experience in this industry. So you had mentioned that you just started a company about a year and a half ago, if I'm not wrong. What is this company all about? How does it differ from Dime?
Yeah, so the company I started a year and a half ago is actually not in existence anymore. That company was called Dime. And I would say it's about 6 months now, I started a company called Glimpse, which I'm currently the co-founder and CEO of. And with Glimpse, what we're really enabling is product placements in the real world. So we're purely a software tool, and we work with online brands that sell consumer products, and we place their products in spaces like Airbnbs, hotels, offices, any sort of hospitality space. My old company that I mentioned, Dime, which did pop-up shops, the way that this really differs from that is with Dime, we weren't purely software. We had a whole logistical component of our business, which really brought down our unit economics. So even though we were profitable with Dime, our growth potential wasn't as big to investors because it wasn't purely software, which is something I really thought was interesting as a startup founder. With Glimpse, what's really exciting about Glimpse is that anyone can understand what we're doing. A good example I like to use about Glimpse that really describes what Glimpse does is think about a company that sells mattresses. So we've seen the rise of digitally native mattresses over the last 5 years with companies like Casper. And for them, they have to be able to sell a customer on that mattress purely through online ads and videos and other investments into digital marketing. However, imagine if a mattress like that was placed into an Airbnb and a guest came to that short-term rental property, had a good night's sleep for 3 to 5 days, and then woke up and were like, wow, this is so much better than what I have at home. And right there's a discount code for them to buy that mattress. That whole experience is what we really want to provide with Glimpse across various product verticals. So to date, in under a month after launching Glimpse, we have 10 paying customers. We're live in over 200 properties. And what we're really learning is that offline interactions with products can lead to a much higher purchase rate. which is very interesting because so many people invest so much in digital ads. And we're really creating a new channel for these brands to increase their exposure and drive sales.
So that's quite an interesting business model you have there, Akash. Uh, in light of kind of what's going on, right? Recently, we've seen a 22% decline in Q1 2020 compared to Q4 2019 for VC funds that are trying to raise funds, right? And moreover, angels and smaller VCs drive a large proportion of activity at the seed stage. And during recessions or crises such as COVID-19, right? Angels and other independent early stage deal makers are even more likely to sit on the sidelines. And recently, with all these big VC funds coming out, such as KPCB, Sequoia, General Catalyst, the Gen Fund, sending letters to their LPs and startup founders on this crisis and how to best overcome it. What are you guys doing as a seed stage startup that is just going on raise right now to work around this crisis? Have you switched the whole business model?
Yeah, so I guess I can answer that question on multiple fronts. So yeah, in terms of the business model, we made a big decision to pivot our business model over the last few weeks to account for the coronavirus. So when we first launched our business, we purely were a marketplace that connected these brands to all of these various hospitality spaces. But what we realized is that spending power is going to go down significantly, especially anyone who's involved with the business that is in the real world, because bookings are gone, people are staying at home, they can't actually go and support the businesses. So a big thing that we did was that we pivoted our business model so a host or any sort of property on our platform can get paid for driving sales for the business. So it's almost like we incorporated an affiliate marketing model to Glimpse. And what's really exciting about this for us is now all the incentives are aligned from both sides of the market. Because for a brand that is on the Glimpse platform, they can still drive their sales, they can still increase their reach, and they have a new channel with Glimpse. On the host side, they can get products that directly complement their properties, but they can also make money by driving sales. And they can use channels such as social media and word of mouth to drive these sales in the short term while they don't have guests. And as soon as guests come back to their properties, they can sell directly to those properties. So all incentives are aligned, and we serve as a way for the host to make consistent revenue during this time. And this pivot in our business model has really helped us hyper focus on growing our bottom line, because now we're, by providing more value to the host and bringing more brands onto our platform, we're actually helping the hosts as opposed to just helping ourselves. So that's something that I didn't even think about when we had first started Glimpse, but now it just seems like such a core fundamental part of our business. On the fundraising side, as an early stage startup, we've definitely seen the direct impacts of sort of just people not giving money anymore, especially with angel investors whose net worths were directly affected by the coronavirus. I think one thing that's really interesting that isn't spoken about as much in the VC landscape is that pre-seed funds and seed funds are still relatively active. So they may not be as active as, so I know VCs that are Series A onwards have completely stopped investing. But in the pre-seed and seed stage, because they make so many bets, the coronavirus is something that made them maybe make less investments or do a lot more diligence. But I've seen lots of lists being shared around. I've been reached out by investors of funds that are still actively looking to make investments. It's just the process and the valuations will be much slower. I think that will probably affect my company, but we're lucky that I had run a company before called Dime, and we were able to generate revenue with Dime. So I've been able to use Dime's revenue as a way to fuel Glimpse to date. And our goal of Glimpse is to be profitable. So what we're doing right now is really focusing on our business model and bottom line so that we can continue to grow profitably, so that we're a lot more attractive to the investors that we have meetings with.
No, very, very well said, Akash. And I want to touch on one of the points that you had, discussed prior in this regard to, helping these businesses market themselves and get themselves out there by offering your service, right? So it's not solely based on the tech stack and the product of the business, but also this whole idea behind brand marketing and advertising, right? And so how are you helping these businesses advertise their product and service? What platforms are you using? And what advice would you give to people who are, in COVID right now that can't go into the office, that are in businesses that have to, advertise and market for them to advertise and market themselves for them to survive?
Yeah, of course. So I think the big thing is really thinking about what you can do online that directly affects you when you go back offline. So if you think about Glimpse just as a marketplace, right? We essentially have three sides of our market. So we have the brands, we have the hosts or the hospitality spaces, and then we have the guests. So it's essentially a three-sided marketplace, and we're using these hospitality spaces as a channel to reach the guests, which is where that exponential reach really comes in. Because if you think about an Airbnb or an office space or any sort of hospitality space, and think about why that's so useful to a brand, is because if you can sell your product to one person, you indirectly are getting your product exposure in front of 30 people, in front of 50 people, in front of 100 people. During this time when people are like not able to go to these businesses, it doesn't mean that they're forgetting the business or that they're losing the value of the business. It just means they physically can't be there. So one thing we've been telling a lot of the hosts on our platform is to think about their online channel. Like, what can you do online that helps you when coronavirus hopefully goes away? Or even if it doesn't, you have to be able to adapt. So one thing that's really powerful about what we learned in our journey is the power of social media and just sort of word of mouth marketing and stuff like that. So for the brands on our platform, a lot of them have actually seen an increase in their sales during this time because people are at home more. They want to be able to discover new things. So with Glimpse, we're helping these hosts sort of realize that if they have an Instagram for their property, for example, or if they have like a direct booking website outside of like a platform like Airbnb, they can promote products and still make revenue. And I think that that's really interesting because for Glimpse as a business model, if our third side of our market, which is the guests, aren't really there, that means there's a huge latent supply pool, which is these hosts. And then we also have the brands who are still trying to make money. So what we had to learn was if we could do something that helps two sides of the market, not all three sides of the market, and continuously grow and impact the two sides of the market. When the third side is ready to come back, that just will make our business flow completely seamlessly. And I think that this is important for any business that's directly affected by COVID-19 because latent supply pools are being affected. Like for all of these people that have these service jobs or they have jobs that are like restaurants, offices, Airbnbs, or that are being directly affected, they have to think about how to adapt because say the world completely changes forever and with coronavirus, like people have to figure out new ways to make income. The ways that they'll have to make income are going to come from online channels. And if a person cannot adapt, like they will not be able to find a job, which is like a sad reality, but I think that everyone has to be thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about this until we had to pivot Glimpse to be able to accommodate to the times. And I think that moving forward, we're going to see a lot more increase in using virtual channels to be able to drive things like marketing, sales, etc.
Okay. Um, that's very very interesting, Akash. And in regards to diving, more deeply into an entrepreneur and the business in general, right? What are some of the top skills do you feel an entrepreneur needs in order to be successful? In light of COVID-19,